Since you suffered through both, which brand was wronged more in 2024, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? I guess in 2024, if we're limiting it to that, I say Lord of the Rings. This is so egregious. So we had the Acolyte with Star Wars, and that was so bad in its treatment of the Jedi, and it doesn't really fit, again, with the lore that George Lucas established, even with the films, which is what Disney said they would continue to consider as canon, which was the films, and even that they couldn't keep straight and stay faithful to. But I think that this is worse. This is so much worse of what they did to all of these legacy characters and themes. Sympathetic orc, sympathetic Sauron, Galadriel being hung up on Sauron, Galadriel being so stupid and not even a hint of heroicism found in her is so sad. And the fact that they even slapped the name Lord of the Rings on this garbage heap is a tragedy. It's a travesty. So yeah, in 2024, I think it's that. Galadriel being in love with Sauron, I think that's what it was. That's interesting. And Elrond kissing his future mother-in-law. And orcs having wives and babies, like traditional family dynamics. Learning about the Blue Wizards would have been cool. Yeah, I would have accepted that. I think the greater fan base would have been excited and hyped for that. Even if it was based off of something that was later revisited, that it was part of that soft canon. Yeah, they still would have accepted it because it was from J.R.R. Tolkien, and it was from his idea. And he's the one that's still formulating this dense, complex mythology. So yeah, I think people would have really responded to that. And again, we're having to deal with, and it's with Star Wars as well, and so many other properties too. Hollywood just has absolute disdain for canon. They hate having to tell stories within certain rules or boundaries. They view them as obstacles that have to be torn down for the sake of their own vision, for the sake of their own limited creativity. When in reality, these rules, these boundaries, these are the foundation of creativity. This is the framework of a world-building IP. It's what makes any given IP compelling and unique. And because there's like not a ton of details surrounding Blue Wizards, you could have done something really cool about, flesh out that, expand upon this franchise, upon this mythology, instead of tearing down something just so that you could repurpose it, reformulate it into basically just telling like third age events for the second age. They're just getting rid of canon so that they can repurpose future storylines and bring them into this show where they don't belong. They have voice recordings of Tolkien discussing canon and its importance. He cared. Obviously, this is one of the most cared for and rich world-building IPs. Tolkien was very meticulous about this universe, basically this creation story and histories of all of these races and of the world through all these different ages. It's interesting, and it reeks of laziness to dismiss it, to dismiss all of Tolkien's ideas. And at the end of the day, throwing out canon, dismissing it altogether, that is really the death of imagination and creativity. What has this led to? So let's revisit the Gandalf thing, dismissing what Tolkien wrote about wizards altogether, all of his ideas. What has that led to? It's just a storyline of how Gandalf got his staff, how Gandalf first met the hobbits, how Gandalf got his name. That's the story. It's not compelling. It's not interesting. And even like mainstream media sites have long been calling this out. Even in season 1, the Harfoot stranger wizard that he was at the time was the most boring. No one cared about it. It just felt tacked on. And the same thing with this. Like, this is a storyline that people in general care the least about. I never see anyone, even online, like the stands for this show, talking about the Harfoots and Gandalf. It's all just about Sauron. It's the most boring, the least compelling, the most derivative, which is saying something because there's a lot of derivative elements in this show. The canons of narrative art in any medium cannot be wholly different, and the failure of poor films is often precisely an exaggeration and in the intrusion of unwarranted matter owing to not perceiving where the core of the original lies. So we have his mindset in regards to adaptation, and honestly, like, what are we even doing? Fans are fans of Tolkien and his stories. It's a slam dunk to adapt those. A tale based on Numenor alone could have lasted for years. And again, like dismissing canon to have the fall of Numenor take place during this time. What has that led to? Isildur. What is Isildur's arc? He gets rescued by his horse. he meets a rando woman who, again, people ship, and they have this love triangle thing because she's betrothed. She's one of the wild men or whatever that swore allegiance to Adar. So there was that. And he continues to simp for her for no reason. Like, why does he even care about this rando woman that you just met? And okay, she's betrothed, and at the end, like in the finale, they all get rescued from the Ents who captured them because they think they burned down the forest, I believe, and they hash things out. Just out of nowhere, Isildur has this scene with Theo. Have these characters even interacted? Have they ever interacted before now? It's so tacked on. And Theo's like hugging him. They have this hug. Like, why do they even care? It's so weird. And then, okay, our Farazan's son comes and says to the town, give us wood. And Isildur's gonna go with them back to Numenor, but he can't take, what is even her name? Oh, Estrid, I think. He can't take her with him. She wants to go, so this is a bit awkward because her betrothed is like, what's going on? And I guess doesn't care that she was about to go on the ship with this dude. He can't take her with him, so anyways, he pouts as he gets on the boat and leaves her. That's the story arc for Isildur. Isildur, one of the characters of legend. And he's just reduced to this Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, whatever, 90210 love triangle shtick. Seriously, his horse was more interesting than Isildur himself. His horse actually dispatched a few orcs, helped him, defeated a few spiders in the cave. He's done more heroic actions than Isildur. This is pathetic. So you're dismissing canon for what? For this? Did they copy Witcher with Isildur's horse? They've ripped off so many things. That wouldn't surprise me. They ripped off The Matrix, Harry Potter, Star Wars, as well as all the Third Age stories and stuff that they wanted to cram in here too. Why am I in this timeline where Lord of the Rings, this mythology, famed mythology, is copying Harry Potter and Star Wars? What are we doing? It's not for fans, and it's not even for general audiences, for that matter, because none of this makes sense. Even on a basic, generic fantasy television show, it fails. It's not interesting. It doesn't make sense. The character arcs across all these different locations aren't interesting. They aren't entertaining.